warm welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Lima, but first are the headlines. Security heightened as police warns of traffic disruption ahead of Museveni inauguration. Government embarks on a new project aimed at extending services to the people. Opposition fighters withdraw from Mogadishu. And in sports, Cobs Rugby Club end 5-year wait for league triumph. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. Police and the army have warned of traffic interruption and heightened security in Kampala ahead of President Yoweri Museveni's inauguration ceremony for his 65-year elective term at Kololo Independence Grounds on May 12th. We have more.
The traffic commander for Kampala Metropolitan Police, SSP Norman Musinga, has said there will be traffic disruption along Entebbe Road in most of the routes leading to Kololo ceremonial grounds. According to him, the John Babiha Avenue, which stretches from City Oil in Kamocha along Kira Road up to Fairway traffic lights along Yusuf Lule Road, will be out of use. Very important persons will be only ones to utilize the John Babiha Avenue to Heroes Corner at Kololo Airstrip. VIP cars will use Mabua Road, join John Babiha Road, Golf Course Road and park at Hotel Africana after dropping the high-class guests. Wampeo Avenue will strictly be a one-way route in the morning as people head to inauguration venue and after the ceremony. According to police, service providers such as media, emergency cars, ambulances, security vehicles will access Kololo via Wampeo Avenue and occupants will be dropped at the lower gate. Reporting for TV Africa News, Nahabwe Kajura.
The government under the Ministry of Water and Environment has revealed plans to plant over 40 million trees as a measure to protect the environment. Nalugo reports.
Recent studies conducted by African Natural Resources Institute indicate that forest cover loss has now increased to an estimated 200,000 hectares annually. The situation is being blamed partly on Uganda's booming population, which is growing at a rate of about 3.6% per annum. At the growth rate, the population will almost be approximately 63 million, close to that of Britain, which has a similar landmass. While presenting a report on their performance in the implementation of the NRM Manifesto, Minister of Water and Environment, Honorable Sam Cheptoris, said government has plans of planting 40 million trees per year to protect the environment.
More effort will be made on the planting of trees countrywide and the water for production for increased income and increased livelihoods.
We have a deliberate policy of planting trees countrywide, and starting from this financial year, we are going to be planting 40 million trees per year, different varieties, as a means of ensuring that we increase the tree coverage in the country. And these trees will be planted by the communities themselves, institutions, the National Forest Authority, the ministry, and all the stakeholders must be engaged in this process.
Population growth and migration has increased demand for agricultural land and firewood energy, and rural poverty restricts the ability to invest in sustainable land use practices. The population growth rate of 3.6% per annum leads to exerted high pressure on the forest resources. In order to derive people's livelihoods, higher population makes land for settlement and agriculture inadequate and consequently resort to the forest land. Despite the existence of forestry-related policies such as the Uganda Forestry Policy and the National Environment Management Policy, which were designed to protect and preserve forest ecosystems, there still exists rampant deforestation in Uganda today, and the policies that currently exist are part of the problem.
We hope that coming this next manifesto, by end of 2026, we should have planted over 200 million trees in the country. So make use of this opportunity. remembering that trees are planted for two purposes, mainly one, to increase the tree cover and improve on the environmental management, but at the same time, it's a source of revenue to our communities, our households. So we request the political leaders, we request all the leaders at all levels to encourage the communities in tree planting to increase the tree cover to the country.
The body uses water in all its cells, organs and tissues to help regulate its temperature and maintain other bodily functions. The body loses water through breathing, sweating and digestion. Therefore, it's important to rehydrate by drinking fluids and eating foods that contain water. The ministry said it will provide drinking water at every household for all people to access water.
As the NRM party begins the coming cycle of the manifesto 2021, deliberate effort will be made on providing drinking water to the unserved areas and ensure equity in our service delivery to all villages.
Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
President Museveni recently launched a new public policy management reform, and it was flagged off by the Prime Minister, Rugunda. Today, the Minister for Presidency, Honorable Esther Mbayo, has addressed the public on the status of the project and how it will be implemented at Media Center, Kampala. Let's take a look.
The Apex platform was adopted as a key implementation reform whose operationalization needed to be fast-tracked. It is designed to facilitate the oversight function of the presidency and to strengthen strategic coordination as well as implementation of the office of the Prime Minister.
On the 27th of March 2021, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, launched a new policy management reform codenamed the Apex platform, and it was subsequently flagged off by the Right Honorable Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda on the 8th of April 2021. The Apex platform was adopted as a key implementation reform under paragraph 4991 of the NDP3, whose operationalization needed to be fast-tracked. The mission of the Apex platform is to facilitate accountability, uptake and learning for effective public sector policy management.
According to Minister for Presidency Honorable Esther Mbayo, Apex platform will provide an opportunity for the major four entities including the Office of the President, Office of the Prime Minister, Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, and National Planning Authority in public planning and implementation. The implementation roadmap includes managing for and utilization of results, readiness for implementation, amongst others.
To facilitate the oversight function of the Presidency and to strengthen strategic coordination as well as implementation by the Office of the Prime Minister, at least for the implementation period of the NDP3. In effect, the Apex platform will provide renewed impetus to harmonize the oversight efforts to address the implementation challenges that beset the previous NDP1 and NDP2.
Minister Mbayo, however, appealed to all stakeholders to perform their respective roles with highest level of dedication and integrity. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtavazi reporting.
The Capital Markets Authority and Uganda Police have today, 10th May 2021, warned Ugandans on engaging with illegal financial organizations for business and investment purposes. Kachanchu has more.
Addressing the media today at the Uganda Media Center, the Crime Investigation Department spokesperson, Mr. Trine Charles, said that there are many fraudulent investment schemes that have falsely acquired a lot of money, close to 11 trillion from Ugandans, and urged Ugandans to be very vigilant and always report suspicious organizations to the authorities.
We have so many fraudulent schemes. Some are already known, and I want to applaud and actually call upon you, members of the press, to name and shame. For us, we shall do the technical part of investigating and causing prosecution. But you also join us as ambassadors to name and shame. We have so many fraudulent so-called investment schemes that have taken a lot of money from unsuspecting members of public. Let me tell you, in the recent annual crime report, we indicated that 11 trillion was lost from some of these schemes, from some of the embezzlement schemes, including some public kind of embezzlement. 11 trillion.
Mr. Trine further assured the public that police have set up a special unit at the Crime Investigation Department headquarters to carry out investigations into these legal schemes.
Shares are for sale. You check, you do a due diligence, you call the Capital Markets Authority, ask people if they are licensed, ask them to show you a copy of the license. So we are here and we are working very, very closely with Capital Markets Authority. We have decided that if these companies continue in operation, we shall continuously be coming to you journalists because you're also watchdogs. You are also helping us in the financial sector to prevent crime. So we are very concerned and we want you to keep watching out for the advertisements that we put regarding these companies. Prevention is better than cure. Please invest your money wisely through licensed entities, licensed by Capital Markets Authority. So that's our message to you today.
Ms. Miriam Musali, the Director, Capital Markets Authority, said that it's their responsibility to protect Ugandans' investment into secure environment. TV Africa News, Kachancho Mtabazi reporting.
Let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. Opposition fighters withdrew from the Somali capital on Friday, ending a tense standoff with pro-government troops after a dispute over delayed elections triggered by the country's worst political violence in years.
Hundreds of heavily armed gunmen pulled out of strongholds in Mogadishu they had occupied since last April, when a long-running political crisis turned deadly with clashes erupting between rival factions of the security forces. Under a deal reached by the warring sides this week, opposition troops began leaving their positions in the capital and key roads sealed off, with sandbags and machine guns were opened once more. Mogadishu had been on edge since February, when President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed's term ended, before elections were held and protesters took to the streets against his rule. But a resolution in April to extend his mandate by 2 years split the country's fragile security forces along all important clan lines. Soldiers loyal to influential opposition leaders began pouring into the capital, where clashes broke out with pro-government troops, killing 3.
Moving on, a new Zulu king in South Africa was named amid scenes of chaos Friday night as other members of the royal family questioned Prince Misuzulu Zulu's claim to the title. Bodyguards whisked Prince Misuzulu away from Kwakanga Lamakengane Royal Palace, where his mother's will was read out. Let's have more.
The controversy over the next king, a largely ceremonial role, but one with great significance for South Africa and its 12 million Zulu people, has risen after the death in March of King Goodwill Zwelithini, who has reigned since 1968. Zwelithini apparently named one of his 6 wives, Queen Mathombi Shiyiwe Dlamini Zulu, as the regent of the Zulu kingdom in his will, but after death just over a week ago after holding the title for only a month has thrown the royal succession into turmoil. The commotion broke out at the reading of the Queen Mafombi's will, and hours after a memorial service for her. Her will named 46-year-old Prince Suzulu, her eldest son, with King Zwelithini as the next king. But another prince objected and interrupted the announcement at the place in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, while two princesses have already questioned whether the late king's will gave Queen Mafombi the right to nominate a successor on her death.
Away from that, the Chadian army said on Sunday that the operation against rebels who have been on the offensive for a month is over and that the situation has returned to normal. It was during fighting between the army and the FARC rebels that Marshal Deby was killed. Let's have more.
Several hundreds of vehicles and armored vehicles of the Chadian army returned to the Chadian capital N'Djamena on Sunday to celebrate the end of operations in the west of the country, according to local media. The Chadian army presented 156 FARC prisoners to the press, as well as many seized vehicles. Since its creation in 2016 in southern Libya, FARC and its columns of pickups first ascended from April 11th southward across the Libya-Chad border, then passed through Niger before returning to Chad in the Kanem. After the announcement of the death of President Deby, his son Mahamat Idris Deby took over the reins of the country at the head of the Transitional Military Council. Surrounded by 14 generals all loyal to his father, he holds almost all the power. The country's new strongman has promised free and democratic elections within 18 months, a period he can extend once.
Moving on Tuesday, 100 days will have passed since the generals made their lightning power grab in the early morning of February 1st, ousting and detaining civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar. We have more.
Around 780 civilians have been killed, according to a local monitoring group, as security forces have sought to suppress near-daily protests with brutal crackdowns in live rounds. Night after night, soldiers and police raided homes to arrest suspected activists, both protesters and those taking part in the civil disobedience movement that has crippled the state's ability to function. Despite the dangers, the movement persists, fueled by a young generation who came of age since democracy dawned and the country began opening up a decade ago. The bloody intensity of the crackdowns has ebbed in recent weeks, partly as demonstrators have switched to flash mob tactics to avoid the right of being shot.
Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. Once again, you're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, who is also the current head of the African Union, met on Saturday with Egyptian and Sudanese officials amid international and regional efforts to relaunch negotiations over Ethiopia's disputed dam on the Nile River's main tributary.
President Felix Tshisekedi was received by General Abdel Fattah Burhan, head of Sudanese ruling sovereign council, at the Khartoum's airport. The two leaders then headed for talks at the presidential palace, where the Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok also attended, according to a statement by the Sovereign Council. Foreign Minister Mariam Al-Mahad said Congo's president has offered an initiative to break deadlock over the dam's dispute. She said the Sudanese authorities would study the initiative without elaborating. Tshisekedi then flew to Cairo, where he met with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the Egyptian leader's office said. The latest round of African Union brokered negotiations in Congo's capital Kinshasa in April failed to make progress on the issue. The dispute now centers on how quickly Ethiopia should fill and replenish the reservoir and how much water it releases downstream in case of a multi-year drought.
In our health news today, the Seychelles Minister of Foreign Affairs and Tourism said on Saturday that the health situation in Seychelles, which is facing a sharp rise in the number of coronavirus infections, despite a largely vaccinated population, is worrying, but currently manageable. Let's take a look.
The most recent government figures in Seychelles show 498 new cases in 3 days between 28 April and 1st May, bringing the total number of cases to 6,373 with 28 deaths. To stem this new wave, the government announced on Tuesday the tightening of anti-COVID measures, forcing shops, bars and casinos to close an hour earlier at 7 p.m. local time, banning gatherings, shows and sports activities, and extending the closure of schools until 23rd May. According to the minister, this increase is due to a greater number of tests, but also because there is a slackening in the population. 61% of the 98,462 inhabitants have already received 2 doses of vaccine, and 70% have received at least 1, according to the Ministry of Health.
In our sports news today, Cobbs Rugby Club have won the 2021 Nile Special Stout Rugby Premier League title to end a long 5-year wait for league triumph. The now 13-time league champions went unbeaten in all their 9 matches, conceding only 2 tries in the flawless campaign. Our reporter Katende has more.
Cobbs needed only 1 point from their last match of the session to be crowned champions. This was against their closest challenger, Pirates, who needed nothing less of a bonus point victory in the crunch title decider played at Legends Rugby Club. Tries from Alja Maneno and Derek Tukwansiwe, plus points off James Njogati's boot, secured not only the point but also the win. When center referee Sauda Adiru blew the final whistle, it was a mixture of emotions for players, officials and fans for Cobbs Rugby Club. Uganda crowning moment was graced by Prince Daud Chintuwasajja of the Buganda Kingdom, who handed over the trophy to Asaba. Katende Chawasinga reporting for TV Africa News.
Now, before we end our news bulletin today, let's take a recap of our top stories. Security heightened as police warns of traffic disruption ahead of Museveni inauguration. Government embarks on a new project aimed at extending services to the people. Opposition fighters withdraw from Mogadishu. And in sports, Cobbs Rugby Club end 5-year wait for league triumph. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.
This is Africa, and that was the news.